Israel and Iran fighting each other right now? It's a complex story of regional hegemony, like most things are. But the first time these two countries have ever openly exchanged blows with each other, not through proxies and not through like subterfuge and being secretive, came in 2024. But let's start with the recent developments and we'll track back from there. In March of 2025, the United States Director of National Intelligence and one-time birdie-goated lefty Tulsi Gabbard stated that
the IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003. The IC continues to monitor closely if Tehran decides to reauthorize its nuclear weapons program.
She goes on to explain that although it does sit at currently high levels of nuclear enrichment, it has not been weaponized and it is not at the level to be weaponized. President Trump, who campaigned partly as a
peace through strength
type president, initiated a new round of negotiations directly between Washington and Tehran. Negotiations were trending to end up in a place where Iran would be able to maintain a uranium enrichment supply on par for that of civilian nuclear power use, but which would still be 30-fold below weapons grade. And they would also remain in compliance with the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, non-proliferation standards and inspections. This is largely reminiscent of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, which comes from the Obama administration, the JCPOA. However, Trump nixed that in 2018, ostensibly because Obama did it, and therefore it was probably for babies. These negotiations would likely result in economic sanctions being lifted off Iran and their re-entry into the SWIFT payment system. If you remember, when Trump pulled out of the JCPOA in 2018, the Iranian economy collapsed seemingly overnight. 40% inflation, as well as the political careers of any westward-looking reformers in the country. A country that maintains a high level of education with 90 million people and an abundance of natural resources, you could be looking at a regional power at the level of Turkey when properly scaled up. Largely absent from these negotiations, however, were the Israelis, their chief rival in the region, aside from the Saudis, who, if you remember, largely opposed the JCPOA the first time it came around. Rather than suffering that indignity again, they decided to preemptively strike at multiple strategic, both nuclear and non-nuclear sites in Iran on June 12th, 13th, whenever he caught the news. A move that President Trump would call inappropriate.
I just said, I don't think it's appropriate. We're having very good discussions with him, and I said, I don't think it's appropriate right now. Because if we can settle it with a very strong document, very strong.
If positive negotiations were seemingly on the table, why would the State of Israel not only sabotage the negotiations, but begin a full hot war with the Iranians as well? For this, we need to understand the intertwined histories of Iran, the State of Israel, and how Western imperial power has shaped this conflict. Follow for my next video, which is going to explore the beginnings of this conflict between the two countries.